Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap. This time taking a look at my semifinals match in the XPDLA, in which I face off against Sprite and their Atlantic Halifax Quagsires as I aim to advance to the finals of the XPDLA after securing the number one overall seed with an 8-1 record. Uh, I have not fought Sprite in the regular season. There are lots of elements of their team that I am concerned about, namely my inability to break Tapu Fini reliably, as well as Porygon 2. But before we get into that match, we're going to take a look at the options they had available to them and then the pieces I brought to best address it. So they have regular Garchomp. I faced off against a Mega Garchomp in Week 8 of the regular season. The nice thing about that is you know what the item is on the Garchomp. It makes it a little easier to prepare around. With the standard Garchomp, it's a little more difficult to guess what it's going to do. My expectation was that it's going to bring Life Orb, Earthquake, Fire Blast, Skill Shot, and then Stone Edge just to make sure it can hit everything. If it brings Swords Dance, that leaves something that it can't address, whether it be Dragapult or Rotom Heat. So if Swords Dance does show up, that's going to mean there's an opening somewhere to kind of deal with it defensively. Jirachi, not overly concerned about it just because it has a really tough time dealing with Alolan Muck and the combination of the Skarmory. It can run a mix set, but it can't really push past the Muck unless it's going to run a mix set with Iron Head. That's really its only way around the Muck. So my expectation is it's not going to have an easy matchup if it shows up. Articuno doesn't do well against Mega Diancie, doesn't do super well against Dragapult, although it can absorb hits decently well and KO back with Freeze Dry. The ability to have Freeze Dry is probably why it's going to show up, just because that's a good way to pummel Gastrodon. Tangrowth, fairly concerning defensive piece, not easy to break. My Skarmory isn't well equipped to do it. My Dragapult, if it's special, can deal with it pretty well, so that's kind of what I'm going to lean into. And then obviously the Diancie, but if it runs like an AV set, that's where it becomes a real concern because AV sets can get it into 3-hit KO range, which is problematic for me. Manectric, I don't think it's a good bring. It doesn't really do anything to Rotom Heat, has no way of pressuring that really whatsoever outside of Hidden Power Rock. Porygon 2, really difficult to break, pretty reliant on getting a Toxic onto it because I'm not going to get a chance to hit it for free with a knockoff on Alolan Muck. So dealing with that is going to be a problem. Tapu Fini, same issue. I can't really status it reliably because of terrain setting. I can't hit it too reliably with some of my better options because it'll just flee from Muck, and I can't pursuit trap it the same way I could other things because I can't even threaten to get the poison status on it because of terrain. Alolan Marowak, I don't think that's a great bring unless it's going hard Trick Room, in which case it has some decent work it can do, but not too worried about what it's going to offer. Mega Beatrill, very, very scary, but just has no way of dealing with Skarmory. So if it shows up, it's pretty walled out by Skarmory while that's alive. If it doesn't show up, I wouldn't be surprised. Pangoro, something I really should be looking at closer just because of its scrappy ability, which I was not aware of when kind of reviewing the team. I did forget it had access to scrappy, which changes its viability considerably because things that might have been able to deal with it spamming close combat, namely Dragapult, no longer do that. And so it becomes a much larger concern. And then Aggron, no real concern what Aggron can do. I have no expectation of that being any sort of serious threat to my team, but it's there as something I guess to consider. So with that in mind, I'm going back into Mega Diancie, fast enough to outspeed max speed Garchomp, just by 1 point, rest into special attack and then some HP. Moonblast, Mystical Fire, Power Gem, just standard special attacking spread. And then Toxic on the expectation that Porygon hard switches into Mega Diancie as the way to kind of wall it out. So if I can slap a Toxic on it, then it wears down pretty quickly. Dragapult going for the Choice Scarf just in case I run into the Skill Shot Garchomp, so I can ensure I still outspeed it after a Skill Shot setup, and then reliably KO it with either Draco Meteor or Shadow Ball, depending on its health range. And then U-turn for Pivot, Fire Blast to smack a couple of things around, like Tangrowth if it shows up. Skarmory, opting for no attacks, just leftovers. Max defense is a way to kind of absorb the physical attackers as best as possible. Spikes to get hazards on the ground because that can be meaningful. Roost, Toxic, and then Whirlwind so that nothing can set up in front of Skarmory. Things like Stored Power, Stored Power Jirachi don't get a chance to get too set up when I have Skarmory to lean into. The Rotom Heat, going for Boots again. Overheat, and then Hidden Power Ice to smack the Guard Chomp, Volt Switch to pivot, Pain Split to get health back. Pretty standard spread for the Pain Split setup. Just max HP, pretty much max speed, because I have to account for the Tapu Fini, which is at an 85 speed stat, so need to make sure I'm reliably outspeeding that with the Rotom Heat. Alolan Muck, pretty much the same spread I've been running all season. Pretty much max HP, max attack, some special defense investment, trying to take items away. Pursuit, if either of the things that don't want to get trapped by Pursuit show up, like Jirachi or Alolan Marowak. And then Ice Punch for the Guard Chomp if I'm feeling like I can hit that. And then Poison Jab for the Tapu Fini. And then finally, the Gastrodon, Earth Power, Ice Beam, Recover, Mirror Coat, Storm Drain ability, so that that Fini is relying on hitting me with Moonblast only. It can't hit me with Scalds. Mirror Coat to deal with the Tapu Fini if it tries to set up, Recover for health, Ice Beam for the Garchomp specifically, and the Earth Power is good general coverage. Pretty much max HP, max defense, some special defense sprinkled in, but nothing to be very meaningful with. But generally, that was my goal. Just try to get some hazards on the ground, wall out what I need to wall out until the point Diancie can start pushing through things. So as soon as Porygon 2 is slapped with the Toxic, Diancie has a much easier time being oppressive. And so I'm just trying to get Diancie going as early as possible in this match, which is opposed to my normal play style of trying to really hold it off until the end. But I know I'm going to rely on Diancie to win this game. And so I'm going to try to get it in and operational as soon as possible. So Porygon 2 comes out as a lead. I'm aware that it might have the access to Thunderbolt. It might be running that for Skarmory specifically, so I can't stay in on that. Gonna flee straight to Muck. Unfortunately, it's a teleport stat, goes straight into Garchomp. I am carrying Ice Punch. I don't like my odds that it's not going to straight up go for an attack on turn 2. I feel like that would be the right kind of aggressive play, so I'm going to flee straight into Gastrodon. It Swords Dances, very concerning. It means something. It means it's lacking a coverage move, whether it lacks the move to deal with Skarmory, Dracopult, or Rotom Heat. I don't know, but it's missing a move. So I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of forced to stay in with the Gastrodon. The Gastrodon has about a 50% chance of surviving max special attack, or not max special attack, max attack, Jolly, Life Orb, Earthquake. So there's a 50-50 roll that Gastrodon will survive that attack. And so I'm kind of just hoping to survive it so I have some momentum to work with and can put this Garchomp really, really low. Very fortunate that I do in fact survive. It has the Life Orb. I get the Ice Beam. And then even more fortunately, I get the Freeze. Super meaningful because that essentially gives Gastrodon a window to get health back now. I'm going to start clicking Recover because if it unfreezes and attacks, it will die to its own Life Orb damage, so I'm just incentivized to get my health back a little bit. I'm going to go for the Ice Beam there because I don't need to be extra greedy. Meaningless crit, but I get rid of that early on. Articuno comes in. I know it has access to Freeze Dry, so I'm not going to stay in on that. It U-turns on me. Good predictive play. Pangoro comes in. And then this is the thing I was talking about where I did not realize at the time Pangoro had access to the Scrappy ability. I overlooked it in prep. And so once it hit the field, I realized I couldn't come in with Dracopult to absorb a close combat or to force it into a 50-50 guess. It could just freely click close combat because I cannot resist that. And then even worse off, it is a banded set. So it's a banded close combat set that I don't have a switch in for. Really bad discovery early game for me. Not the situation I wanted to be in. I'm going to come in with Diancie. I know when I come in with Diancie, I'm going to bait out Porygon 2 because that's what wants to come in on Mega Diancie. So I'm just going to click Toxic and put it on a timer pretty much immediately. I don't know what Rotom or Porygon 2 has, so I'm going to flee to Rotom. It has Hidden Power. Presumably its Hidden Power is Steel because it was trying to attack the Diancie. So I'm glad I did not give it a window to do so. Rotom Heat, it's going to bait in Manectric because it's trying to get the Lightning Rod boost. I click Overheat on that expectation. I'm going to flee to Dracopult because what I don't want to do is overheat again and get the KO, because even if I get the KO there, after that second overheat, I'm just free opportunities for Pangoro to come back in. I realize I can't be too vulnerable to the Pangoro coming in right now, and I need to be playing smarter about that. He comes back in with Articuno. I'm going to pretty safely U-turn on this, come in with Rotom Heat. Unless they're carrying a Hidden Power move for it, they don't really have a way to hit Rotom Heat for good damage. What I should be doing on this turn, and I really needed to have calced for that, and I regret not doing so, is I need to click Hidden Power Ice to see if I get the KO on this Manectric, because if I click overheat, I am really, really vulnerable to the Pangoro coming back in and just doing a lot of damage to me. Regrettably, I click overheat. Do confirm the KO on Manetric for all that is worth, but then this is just another free opportunity for Pangoro to come back in, and I am forced into sacking my Alolan Muck. And very, very quickly, this is becoming a trade-off game where I get a KO, it creates a window for Pangoro to come back in, Pangoro can get a KO, and so what I need to be doing right now is maintaining a one-mon advantage so that I can win the trade-off battle. That's the key to victory in this game. Coming back in with Diancie because I know it's choice locked into close combat, and now because the Porygon is poisoned, I can pretty freely click Moonblast, and there's just not a lot he can do about that. I'm going to go in and click Moonblast. It doesn't do enough to two-hit KO with the poison. I'm going to click Mystical Fire because I know it has that hidden power Steel, and so I want to make sure if it uses that, it's weaker. He opts not to, unfortunately. And then I'm going to click it again, regrettably, because while I get the special attack down on the Tapu Fini, I'm not going to get it into two-hit KO range for the Moonblast. And then the issue here is that even with the -1, I'm still going to be two-hit KO'd by the Scald. Really unfortunate for me. I bait in the Scald again, which gets Gastrodon on the boost. Not that I could do a ton with that. Articuno comes out, and then I Earth Power regrettably and do no damage. And this right here is a really, really meaningful turn that I'm going to drastically misplay. Like I was saying earlier, I need to maintain a one-mon advantage or at least maintain field control so that I can force favorable turns for myself. And so what I cannot be doing on this turn is losing Gastrodon. And I know I have a free switch into Rotom Heat, and what I should be doing is going straight into Rotom Heat and not making any sort of predictive guesses, because Rotom Heat outspeeds everything that they have available to them at this point. I know the Tapu Fini is leftover, so I know I outspeed that. I know the Pangoro is banded, so I outspeed that. I know Porygon 2 isn't faster than me, so I'm outspeeding everything, and so I should just be going into Rotom Heat because that's the safe call. Instead, I regrettably stay in. I eat a freeze dry. I get KO'd, and now I'm down a Mon, and this is a really big problem for me. I'm going to click Power Gem here because that's the safe move to click. He has no switch on Power Gem, and now the Moonblast does do enough damage where it will KO. A meaningless crit yet again. Fini comes in. I can't 1v1 the Fini with this, so I need to switch out. I could maybe have gone, and I maybe should have gone into the Dracopult, but I was afraid they were going to click Moonblast, and then that would have KO'd the Dracopult. Unfortunately, they go for Scald. I do survive, which is important. I'm going to Volt Switch here, and unfortunately, Pangoro has access to one priority move, and that one priority move is Bullet Punch, so I cannot even come in with Diancie here on the expectation it is running Bullet Punch. Really unfortunate for me. And then because Misty Terrain is out, my Draco Meteor is not going to be able to do enough to KO this Pangoro at this range, and I know that. Fire Blast won't either, so I'm basically forced to U-turn here into the Rotom Heat just to sack it so I can get its health low enough where I can come back in with Dragapult and get a kill with the Draco Meteor. It kills my Rotom there, which was expected. I come with Dragapult. I'm going to click Fire Blast this time. It will be able to do enough to get the KO. Uh, I'm clearly at the disadvantage at this stage in the game. There's just nothing I can do about that. I'm going to click Fire Blast here to get its health down as much as possible. He made a smart decision coming in with Articuno because he understands that Articuno won't survive any sort of power gem from the Mega Diancie, and he doesn't want his Fini taking enough damage to. Not that I don't think it could, but he's being cautious to ensure his Fini doesn't take a lot of damage from the Fire Blast and is now prone to getting killed by the Moonblast. Really smart, safe call by them. Because I'm going to come in, click Power Gem, get yet again another meaningless crit, and then they're going to come in with a Fini with enough health left where I essentially need to crit this or I lose the game, and it's pretty clear and apparent. There's maybe, and I'm going to say it's a really, really small chance, there's maybe a chance I can get a Moonblast to proc a special attack drop on the Tapu Fini, and the Tapu Fini could low roll a Scald, and I could survive by 1 HP. Maybe. All that to say it's meaningless. I don't get that drop. It comes in and Scalds. I get fainted. So unfortunately, I lose in the semifinals match against Sprite, who brought a really, really good team. Unfortunately, I just did not have an answer to Pangoro. My team had an issue with fighting types all season. My only resist was the Leavanny, which I never brought, and my only immunity was the Dragapult, which has risk as being an immunity. And so I lost 2 matches this season. Both opponents had a scrappy fighting type that could just freely click fighting moves, and I just had no answers to that. Earlier in the season, I lost to Cameron Robb in part because of Lopunny's ability to just safely click close combat against me, and I had no answers to that. And then here, Pangoro with a ban could just click freely whatever it wanted, and I just had no switch into that. So really unfortunate. That was the one team flaw I was aware of all season. I was trying to edge around it without getting found out and exposed too much. Unfortunately, I ran into that problem at the wrong time, which is playoffs. So my season ends at 8-2 overall. Very satisfied with what I was able to bring and utilize. I had a good amount of fun using the Mega Diancie. I am absolute garbage with or not Mega Dragapult, just standard Dragapult. I'm garbage with him. Probably will never draft him again. He just doesn't play to my play style very well because I don't like being overly aggressive in the early to mid game, and he can be really good as that. And I just use him too much as a cleaner or safety net, and so I don't get full benefits from the Dragapult. And so I just don't think I was the proper kind of coach to be handling him. Skarmory ended up doing really well for me. Alolan Muck ended up being an absolute blast to use. Really shut down ghosts and psychic types all season long. Really prevented them from having any fun. You can see here that they had both a Jirachi and an Alolan Marowak, both of which could be pretty potent against me, and neither show up just because of how troublesome Alolan Muck had been this whole season against opponents. So just really, really happy with what he was able to do. And I look forward to seeing if I can find other formats to use him in. But that's my season in the XPDLA. I've got multiple other seasons of draft ongoing in different types of formats, like Ubers, like low tiers, other NatDex leagues. So I will continue to search for my first championship. This is now the 5th draft league I have completed. In 4 of the 5 leagues I have played in, I have been eliminated in the semifinals. So I have a really, really good time making it to this point, and then I just cannot get past here. So hopefully the next time I make a semifinals, which will be in the near future, I am in a position to actually make an advance to the finals. So stay tuned for more videos covering other leagues, and I will continue my journey to try and claim my first draft league championship.